Hello, my name is Fernando Herboso with Maxus Realty Group, and today I'll be discussing a question I get very often, which is, should I rent my house instead of selling it? You know that a study has concluded that 39% of buyers prefer to rent out their last residence rather than selling it when purchasing their next home. You have to understand that a lot of times buyers prefer to keep their houses because they want to keep and preserve the value of the property, which is the equity that they receive. And if there's a way they can offset the payments that they have to do, the mortgage payments, versus the payments that they're going to be receiving from a new tenant, it does make sense to try to maintain this property as a rental rather than selling it. But in some cases, we have to understand that you may have to sell your property in order for you to have enough money to purchase your next home. So that's another problem that you may face. But let's talk about if you decided that you want to rent a house instead of selling it. And let me show you some questions that you may ask yourself before renting your home. And the question number one is always, how will you respond if your tenant says that they cannot afford to pay the rent this month because of more pressing obligations? This happens during holiday seasons, Christmas time, where people need money for extra expenses, and you may have the renter, which is your tenant, asking you to wait to receive your payment. So this is something that you have to consider when you are renting a house to an individual that you are not really familiar how they behave with their payments and how do they behave with the bills and what type of responsibility and disciplines that they have themselves. So that's the chance you're taking when you rent a property. The question number two will be, because of the economy, many homeowners can no longer make their mortgage payments. What percent of tenants do you think can no longer afford to pay the rent? So if you're in an area, for example, around Washington, D.C., where the tenancy laws really favor a lot more to the tenants than the landlords, you may face yourself with a huge problem where your tenant may not be able to make the payments, but they have the right to remain in the property without paying for a certain period of time. Meanwhile, you have to keep those payments to your bank. Your mortgage payments have to be paid if you want to preserve your credit. So that's a very important thing to consider when you're renting a house. Another question, number three, will be, have you ever interviewed an experienced eviction attorney in case that you have to challenge a tenant? This is a very stressful situation for any person looking to rent a house when you have to go through the court system to make your tenant pay you money. Another question that you need to ask yourself is, have you talked to an insurance company about possible increase in premiums as liability greater of a non-owner occupied home, meaning that you may end up paying more insurance if you're renting your house, especially in an area that the insurance company may find to be very risky for them. So you need to speak to your insurance company to see how much more or how much less it may cost your insurance if you're thinking about renting your house. Another question is that, will you allow pets, cats, dogs, and how big is a dog? And this is a very important question for you because a lot of families do have pets and they move with pets. And you have to understand that if you are considering saying no, 100% no to any pets in the area, you're going to cut down in the number of applicants for your property, possibly in about 50% of the people. And this is not a good thing then, because then it's going to take you longer to rent, and it's a very important thing that you may consider, that renting with a pet may be something that you may be able to do by maybe charging an extra deposit or maybe putting some stipulations during the negotiation of your lease contract. Number six, how will you actually collect the rent? By mail? In person? The number one advice I always give to people is that I prefer for the tenant to do a direct deposit to the landlord. This is a very important process because you're not really touching and making sure you maintaining a relationship with your tenant and that is becoming more and more personal and more friendly, that then they will have the liberty to maybe ask you to hold on, and they don't have the money, can please help me or whatever. You prefer to have a non-relationship with the tenant, and the less contact with them, the better for you. And you prefer for the money to go directly to your to your bank account from their bank account, and there will be no problem for that, and your money will come every single first of the month. Number 7, repairs are part of being a landlord. Who will take tenant calls when repairs arise? And this is very important for you to realize. You're taking and assuming a lot of responsibility for a whole family living in another house that you don't have no idea what they are doing, if they're having parties or not, and what are they doing to the house that eventually may break. You may have a kid maybe putting something, flushing down the toilet, toys or something, and plugging up the pipe, and you may end up having to pay for the repairs for this, and this may happen in the middle of a night, and so you have to be ready to take these calls at the worst times, and you may end up spending hundreds of dollars repairing things that you have to repair because someone did not take care of this stuff in the right way. So abusing the products that you have in your house may be more prevalent with tenants that they have kids, but it's very hard for you to prove that they were abusing it, and they may be construed as saying it's just a regular break and tear of a product because its longevity or how long you had it, and eventually you end up paying for the whole thing. The next one is, do you have a list of craftspeople readily available to handle these repairs? You better have those things ready, especially a plumber, which is an emergency, and electrician, another emergency. Those two are very important for you to have prior to putting the property on the market, prior for you to have a tenant in your property, to make sure you know who to call in case something happens, whether it's electrical or plumbing. The other question, number 9, how often will you do a physical inspection on the property? Normally, you don't have the right to just burst into the house and knock on the door and say, "Hey, I'm here to inspect the property." You cannot do that. That's against the law. You have to give your tenants right of for you not to butt into their business, and you have to give them enough warning. Days, 1 day, 24, 48 hours, depending on what your lease contract says, but you have to give them a warning how long it's going to be, when are you going to make an inspection of the property. And you want to do this especially once every year to making sure that your property is being taken care of. A lot of times I see a lot of landlords kind of forget about this. They come back 3 years later and they just horrified to find out that their property has not been taken care of and is a mess, and they have to redo the whole thing. So you need to have that inspection of your property at least once a year. And number 10, will you alert your current neighbors that you're renting the house? This is something that you have to understand. The reason why we put this in here is because you want to have the help from your neighbors to making sure that in case something does happen, to give you a call. You want your neighbors now to be the watchdogs for your house, and it's very important that you maintain those relationships with those neighbors because you want to know what's going on in your house at all times. The bottom line is this: renting out residential real estate historically is a great investment for you. However, it is not without its challenges. Make sure you have decided to rent a house because you want to be an investor, not because you're hoping to get a few extra dollars by postponing a sale. If you're deciding to rent your house, please give me a call and I will be glad to give you some more information more directly related to your property, the location, and how much you could expect on a monthly basis from a tenant. My name is Fernando Rebozo. I am a broker owner for Maryland, DC, and Virginia for Maxus Realty Group. I can help you rent your property, or I can help you get top dollar for your property if you decided to sell. Please feel free to give me a call at 301-246-0001, or you can get more information by going to our website www.reallynicehomes.com/selling. Thank you and have a great day.